Okay everyone, now that we saw how to create our own custom cursor, let's say we were lazy or we knew of a cursor that we really liked from a video game that we wanted to use and we didn't think we could create in Photoshop as simple as a hollow ring, we could just go to the internet and get one. So I'm going to go here and actually in video games they call it video game reticle. So that would be actually a better search than cursor or gun sight. And right here you can see a bunch of different ones popping up. Don't really know what game. This one looks like it's from an Unreal Tournament because it says it under here. I'm going to choose this one because I kind of like the colors. And after I click there, I'm always going to choose View Image to get the biggest image I can. And then I'm going to right click, Save Image As, save it to my folder where I'm doing all my work. And I'm going to go to that folder. Here's the file. It's a PNG type file. When you right click and say open with, you may get Photoshop off the list if you've opened one of these before in Photoshop. If you haven't, then it probably is not going to be on this list. You're going to have to go to choose default program. It may appear up here and it may not. If it doesn't, you can click this downward triangle, and on some computers I've seen it as a plus sign. Either way, click that, and one way or another on the top list or the bottom list you'll see Photoshop. Choose Photoshop, uncheck this box. You don't really have to. I like to do that because if you leave this checked, every time you double click on a PNG file, it'll open in Photoshop. And sometimes you just want to look at a picture without editing it. So that's why I like to uncheck this and then just say OK, and it'll open in Photoshop. Now, here's all your different images. I'm just going to look through here. Which one do I like? The purple ghost. I guess that's kind of cool. So I'm going to use my crop tool to get rid of everything but my purple ghost. So click on the crop tool. Make sure this is cleared up here, because if you've used it before and you set a width and a height like 4:6 for some picture or whatever, it's going to try and do the same proportions. So if you just click here, you get a free flowing whatever. You can set it any size you want just by dragging. Drag across there. Try and make it a square. It doesn't have to be. We're going to get rid of that black stuff anyway. So if that looks good, you can always resize it. You can move it around, but I think I got it pretty good. I don't have to be perfect. And if I like it, I click the checkbox, and then there's going to be my cursor. Um, while this is selected, I'm going to zoom in once or twice, or while I have it here, I guess I should say. And I want to get rid of all the black stuff because I don't want to see a black square going around with that. I just want the image of the reticle. So the way you do that is, there's a lot of different ways in Photoshop to do it, but if you have two really dissimilar colors like black and purple, Photoshop does a real good job of knowing the difference between those two. I mean, that's how it works. It knows the difference between colors. So you can usually use, and remember, you can click down on this and hold it down, either the quick selection tool or the magic wand. The magic wand is like magic. It just works. So let's try that. Okay, so with the magic wand chosen, I'm just going to click in the black because that's what I want to make go away. And you'll see it got the outside black pretty good. So I'm going to choose delete. Oops. And something's popping up here. Content aware. Oh, this is because on a background layer, you really can't make things transparent because it's a background. It has to have something there. So I'm going to cancel this and say, okay, I can't do it on this background layer, but I know what I can do. I can change the background layer to a non-background layer. So see that just the word background in italics, it means something special to Photoshop. So just double click on the word background. Name it something else, whatever you like. Layer 0 is fine. Click OK. And now you can delete it and make transparency without having to fill it with something. So if it's named background and you hit delete on your keyboard, Photoshop's going to force you to fill it with something. Now I can hit delete and just get the transparency of the checkerboards. But I still got to get rid of the inside. So if I click here, you'll see it goes around all the purple. I can hit delete again on my keyboard. And then if I click here, I get rid of each inside black. Now, I don't know, maybe you would want to leave that there. That's up to you. But this is what I wanted. To get rid of that last selection, I'll press Control D. And if you wanted to, you could put a layer underneath this to kind of see if it missed anything. But I mean, it got it pretty well. But just to show you how to do that anyway, if you create a new layer, drag it underneath, make sure this layer is selected, go to your bucket tool, which is underneath the gradient tool. So if it's gradient showing, just click, hold down, choose the bucket tool. Choose a color that's different than purple, which I don't know if I want black. Let me choose something really different than purple. How about like a yellow? I guess that's good. Then if I click here, it gives a little bit more contrast so you can see if that checkerboard makes it so you can't see so good. So if it did miss something, if you saw some black dots in here, you could go in and erase them or delete them by drawing around them with the lasso tool and hitting delete, just making sure you're on that layer. Okay, you don't even have to delete this layer, because when you're bringing it into Flash, it's going to ask you what the layers you want, and you're just going to tell it you only want that layer. So let's save it now. File, save as, and most likely it will come up like this, but I've done this before so it didn't. It'll come up as a PNG because that's the way you got it from the internet. Well, I don't want to save it as a PNG, and I don't even want to save it with the same name. I always want to choose Photoshop off the list. So if it says Photoshop here, fine. If it doesn't, make sure you change it. And then over here I'm going to name it Cursor Edit. I guess the first one I could have used Cursor Create since I created it. Then this one I edit it. That's a hard thing to say. And then click Save. Again, if you get this box, just click OK. You can always check this so it doesn't show you again. Okay, now I have that saved. I'm going to close this out. And I'm going to go back to Flash and import that. And of course, import it to the library. And Cursor Edit. Notice it comes up and says, hey, which layers do you want? Well, I don't want this one, so it's unchecked, which is good because I guess Flash kind of figured you didn't want that one because it wasn't turned on when you saved it. I only want this one, so I say OK. And here's my Cursor Edit, and it set it up as a graphic symbol, I think. And then here's my Cursor Edit that's just the image. And so now I have my two different shapes. I have the one that I created. I have the one that I edited from the internet. And this symbol right here we don't need. So we're going to get rid of that so as not to confuse us. So we just have the shapes. So we have this shape. That's why it's got the little tree here. So it's like a picture. And this shape. Okay, so here's the shape we just edited, and next video we'll show you how to make you have either one of these as your custom cursor inside your game.